like exaggerating certain beats of those certain things. So,
Well,
I guess that's like the dynamic of it. I guess like you're insinuating like, yeah. You're insinuating certain dynamics of like certain beats of those to like get that like full.
Well, it's
phrase that out.
What's up, everybody?
My name is Anthony Irvin.
You beat yourself?
Yeah, okay. CB myself.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm Jim Green.
Don't even leave a hint of being traffic light.
Okay, good.
Welcome to
One Set.
So,
right. Yeah. I mean, I know that you wanted to talk to me about a thing.
Yeah, because I mean, I know we've kind of talked about the the corporate world of things, but I know we've been wanting to really when we were talking about the whole Prince and Michael episode, something had clicked inside my mind because I think it was something that either you said or something that we talked off air about, but I wanted to, for a little bit kind of or elongated a couple minutes, don't matter if we get to our point. But I wanted us to kind of discuss from a dancer point and a musician point, either how we see, because we're both listening to music and one of us is making music, but one of us is interpreting that music through movement. So I wanted to, but we both, when we're both listening to certain music, I want to see if you're listening to music the same way I am. Because, when this is how, when I'm listening, I'm trying to like, okay, like I might listen to something and that a normal listener might not hear. Like if I'm really trying to dissect either like, I don't really get too technical, but it's like, and I'm not more of like, oh, well, that guy, like, that solo was like in the key of this and it was like a diminished chord that he hit. That was cool. Like, I don't really get that technical, but it's more the fact that, the sounds and colors of certain songs and lyrics and how you're making a feel of it. But as a dancer, I feel you're interpreting, like what emotions you're getting out of those moments within those songs. So, I mean, if you want to start, so like when you're listening, or either when you're listening to music or when you're choreographing, like a piece, if you're listening to a piece of music that you're going to write a choreographic piece to, when you first sit down, flip it on, what's your first thing that you're looking at, like before you write pen to paper, or how, like, what are you trying to get out? Like, what's your process?
Okay, so it's and off the gate, I have to acknowledge, like, how I work is unique to me, and it's not right or wrong. And I have to say that. It's important to say that, because if I say I do it this way, it doesn't mean because other people do it a different way that they're doing it wrong. Because
everybody has so many different ways.
Whatever works for everybody. Whenever anyone figures out, like, this is best for me, this is what works for me, this is what produces my best quality content, they usually go that route. Usually. And I say that because, and I'll start off with this. I rarely, I don't want to say rarely, but I should say, if I'm and I'm going to go through kind of the catalog of like some of my, because I already made notes on, like, I went through the years that my family business was open, and I went through, like, just off the top of my head, some of what I considered my best work, and how I approached not each individual, but I tried to look at, like, okay, which one of these did I approach differently? And I found that I definitely don't approach everything the same. And I want to say that especially early on, I prepared ahead of my and I know I've talked about this on earlier.
Mhm.
I prepared ahead because I didn't trust myself on the spot because I didn't believe in myself enough and feel like I could just do something immediately and say that's fine. That's and not fine or say that works and say yes, do that, right?
Mhm.
So that's why I know previous episodes I'd mentioned like my studio had rehearsals from anywhere 8 a.m., 8:30, 8:45 till 4:30, 5 o'clock on Saturdays. And sometimes I would stay up all night and barely get anything done because that's how indecisive I was. And I'm like,
Mhm.
am I really a choreographer? Like it didn't make sense at the time. And along the way, I think I got so busy that I didn't have time to do that, that I just started saying, okay, if I'm this busy, it's because so many different um, conglomerates, is that a good
Mhm.
word? Um, Companies, organizations
Yeah.
trusted my brain enough that they said, okay, he does some quality stuff, that I stopped trying so hard. And I know I said kind of recently, one of my biggest mentors, um, when I was growing up, actually the first dance teacher that I had, um, that came to my studio that I grew up at, um, he threw me a little inspiration, which I felt like was just like, oh, he was, as mentors and as leaders of the room, we're trying to, provide positive reinforcement to the kids
Yeah.
without lying. And I didn't think he was lying to me. I thought he was just like, I see something in you, keep working. And I took that and I was just like, cool. And then
Mhm.
worked with him a couple times one-on-one in the years after that. And I saw him on stage at that one convention and I said, I want to be that guy. I know I
Yep.
talked about that.
Validation.
Validation, right? But and then when I worked with him, I think I talked about this before we talked about doing this episode, is when I was 17 or 18, he said, I hit my stride and got a lot better when I stopped trying to be so perfect.
Mm.
I spent all of my 20s trying so hard to do all of the right things
Yeah.
that it took so much time and I would make barely any progress. I got to my early, like maybe 3, 4, 5 years ago, where I just started anything that came to my mind. I was like, okay, we're doing this. I was like, do it.
Yeah.
And I'd say 80% of the time it worked out. 20% of the time I'd be like, let's make some adjustments. It wasn't trash, or maybe 5% of it was. The other 15% of the remaining 20, I'd be like, yeah, we can work with that. It's whatever.
Yeah.
Um,
That's
but
what they
yeah,
say about music too. That,
yeah,
uh, and I'm very, conscious of what I put out too. But there's a lot of people that always say just put out music, because we're such in a era that people are putting out music every day, and even if it's something that you're not really as happy with, just put it out. You're putting out content, and then especially from a music production point, even if it's not like top quality, it doesn't have to be radio ready stuff. Like, just put whatever you're creating out there, and then you just know, okay, this is the best I'm going to get this song. Put it out there, and the next time, take what you didn't do, apply that to the next one, and maybe you get that much further, and then you keep on doing that. So like, you're not just waiting on this one song that you're like, I'm almost done this one, but I'm still tweaking things here and there. Like, stop tweaking. Whatever it is, just get it out there, because you're just at least getting it out there, you're getting a finished product out there, and then work on the next one, get it fully done, push it out there, because that's the only way you're going to learn how to just continue to get better with that.
Yeah, so I have and I'll get back into like my creative process in a minute.
Yeah.
One of my favorite inspirations in music, probably, let me think here, 2008 and 9 till 15. And leave a comment below if you want to make fun of me all you want, or join me in understanding how much, the love that I had for dubstep music, because of how intricate that it was. There were so many sounds happening in a short amount of time. And like, I was like, that's how my brain functions. And that's how I want my movement to look, is like so busy, intricate, small, tight, robotic. And then around 2016, 17 was when the hip hop industry changed over into this full blown, full out, like, we're larger than life movement. And I was like, I did that back in 99 to 2004. And I think I've mentioned this before, but by the time I got to 2005 and 6, I went to LA and everything was dialed back and just like super chill. So I'm dancing real big and everyone's like, yo, take it easy.
Chill out. Yeah.
I took a decade to take it easy, and then everyone's like, dude, step your up. And I'm
step it up. Like, that's what I was doing. It's the same thing with music, man. You know, music is changing. I think music is going through a crazy time too, where, you know, especially with, you know, I think rock music is, you know, a lot of people are saying rock music's dead. I don't think it's dead. It's just, it's still finding this spot in where people like can find it, because, you know, we come from like the 90s of like grunge and alternative rock and everything, and I think the standard band like that is like not there anymore. But I think we're getting rock music that's a lot more heavier now, and it's more progressive, and you know, it, like I said, there's so many things that change every 5 to 10 years, and you know, you think, oh, this is going to work right now, but then a year or two later it's going to change and something else is different, you know. So it's kind of hard to keep up with, you know, what people are liking, because the natural listener is always looking for the next best thing or next like pop of what's going to be the next hit type of sound, you know.
Sure. Let's talk about people watching, like, binging or streaming shows on whatever streaming platform versus watching movies. Because streaming episodes online wasn't a thing until 5 years ago,
roughly,
maybe 7. So movies were it until at least 2010. So going to the theater, watching a movie was like the it thing. Watching old movies was a thing. It's attention span, right? So if people are like, okay, if I think we talked about like Snapchat stories used to be 10-second videos. That's it. Get your point across in 10 seconds. And then we're like, okay, we'll extend it to a minute. Fine. They extended it to a minute, but the people that could get their point across in 10 seconds was where everyone gravitated towards. And the people that were like, they had to do this, like the thumb tap, they were just like, this is too long. And no, I'm over it. Right.
And I think we're still in that type of era where, I mean, you have the things that are now like, you know, the biggest thing right now is TikTok. You know, if you're not getting your point across within like 3 seconds, people are swiping to the next one. We're in such a, and I probably say this lightly, comment below if you're going to make fun of me on this one too. But we're in a very selfish and very I don't know what the word is, but like we're I would say like roughly like selfish because we're like, oh, this doesn't interest me, that doesn't interest me. Oh, this is cool. No, okay, all right. Like we're looking for that dopamine hit of like, okay, this is cool, this is cool. But then like you're, it's like that very short window of time where what is interesting and what's not.
Mhm.
And they're always like the gurus of trying to make people go viral, like, oh, you got to do this, you got to do that. And yeah, I mean, I've been in that type of realm of like trying to get certain things to be like, okay, well, I'll listen to these guys, like, and I'll try to fix my content to try to fit that very short window of time to put my thing out there. Some things hit, some things don't, but it's more about the consistency of what that goes on. But like we said about like binging, and not to get off the realm of that, but binging and streaming music, I think again that kind of ties into the fact that like everybody's attention span is very short. So I think the fact that you can binge a lot of things like Netflix and Hulu and all those, like they put a lot of their seasons all out on at one time, where you can just binge 10 episodes in one day, where like you had the Game of Thrones, House of the Dragon, a lot of those things that are still on TV right now that you necessarily can't binge all 10 episodes right at one time. You're still waiting episode after episode after episode every week, and I still like both things. I mean, I like the fact that I can wait a week to get ready for the next one, but I also like that I can binge something really quick, because if I'm really excited about it and I want to watch the next episode, I'm like, all right, cool, it's right there. But then also on the same fact, if I'm watching episode 1 of something and it's really good, but if I know I gotta wait for another week, I'm like, whoopsie. Like, but like you're still gonna watch it. So it's like, I mean, I like both, but I think you obviously get a different effect from the binge and streaming.
Yeah, so I think that this is where WWE is trying to bridge the gap between both, because, pardon me, they have their contracts with the networks, Raw on USA, SmackDown, Raw on NXT, SmackDown on Fox, but
yeah,
their social media is just between Twitter and Instagram. It's just like regurgitated in your face. It's just all the time, everywhere. And they
they got so much content over the years that they'll never run out of content to do.
Not at all. And that's, I think, you see so much WWE stuff, especially like the history stuff. AEW doesn't have that vault yet. And I'm not that WWE fan that's out here being like, oh, AEW is trash, blah blah blah. Like,
no.
I want them to thrive and succeed. Believe it or not, because competition is good, right?
Absolutely.
I didn't catch, because I know we're recording. It's Monday, 11:30 right now. After Raw, I didn't catch the cage match with Bayley and Becky, and I just feel like that was there because they're both people of importance that people care about, and they're like, let's do a steel cage match because people would love to see it. I didn't see who qualified for like you and I both watched the Heyman Cody Rhodes promo, which was like probably the only thing that you really needed to see on Raw, other than the opener where Damian Priest completely botches lines. My goodness, he almost said Money in the Bank before Elimination Chamber.
Oh Jesus!
Yeah, I went on one of our Facebook groups, and I because they're like, the thread is up, and people barely comment on that anymore. And I commented, and somebody tried to come and say like, hey man, it's life, people make mistakes. And I was like, yeah, but this is the road to WrestleMania, and if you're an up and coming star, this is the wrong time to make that kind of mistake. Make that mistake at a house show. You don't do that on live TV where I'm sitting there saying, nope, as
you're
much
at the big leagues. If you're still botching stuff like, Damian Priest is good for what he is, but if you're like still messing up, and again, yeah, I get the guys fat saying like, yeah, people mess up, but still, like, you got to be on your chops at, like, especially at this point of the season, road to WrestleMania. Eyes are on every aspect of this thing.
Absolutely.
So you got to be on your point, because like I said, this can be something that can take you into the next level of your career. Some people can see you and be like, I've heard about this guy, but I've been, kind of seeing his storyline rolling up to WrestleMania, no matter if you're the main event or in the middle card or whatever. But, if you're just not at that level yet, then you're faulting yourself in a way.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, talk to me about meshing with a group of musicians rather than working on your own. I know we've kind of talked about this before, but I'm thinking about like, let's transcend that dynamic with the wrestling dynamic, which is, someone like Damian Priest, who's in the Judgment Day faction right now.
Mm-hmm.
Would he have botched that line independently if he was working one-on-one with someone else? And also, I will relate that to my work with working with groups of dancers versus working with one at a time. Working. That's
pinky up. But no, I could say the cliche thing of like, well, and I kind of like both of them in fact, but you can say the cliche thing like, well, as a solo person, when I'm writing music, I can, write something, and I don't have to have the opinions of X amount of other people in my band to run off of. Whatever I write, if I like it, cool, I keep it. If I don't like it, I throw it out, because I don't have to have any of their opinions. But when you have a band setting, you're sometimes, most of the time, you're getting one person that's writing most of the music, and he's, giving it to everybody else. It's very rare that everybody in the band writes music. There's usually one sole person that's writing the music. But, I still feel, even though when you're writing that piece and you have, X amount of dudes around you in the band, dudes or guys, whatever, that you have to still, see, okay, hey, I wrote this, what do you guys think? So then you can still get the fact that one or two people might like it, but then this one person doesn't. Then you're like, okay, do I change it? Do I scrap it? So, but you can also benefit from it, just like how I was about to say, that if that one person doesn't like it, he might say, hey, the way that you ended that, why don't you flip it and do it this? And then it might work out better. So you can have that extra opinion when you're writing versus when you're doing something solo. You don't have that extra opinion. You're just going off of what your process is going like, unless you're just a genius songwriter and everything that you come up with is gold, then, then hey, good for you. But, I feel it's always good to have, a second opinion. I always, I don't really have too many musicians that I throw my music at, but usually it's just, I'll throw it to like, so I always show you stuff that I write every once in a while, and I'll show it to Jen, I'll show it to my parents, say, hey, this is something I came up with. What do you think? And sometimes people will be biased, like, yeah, man, it's great, but it's also fun to have non-biased people that you don't know, say, hey, this is something that I came up with, I just want your opinion on it. And then they give you your opinion, because that's, it's good to kind of have a good sample size of certain things like that.
Absolutely.
So I would probably think it's almost the same way with dance. You kind of have a couple different opinions there, but how do you feel about being your own choreographer versus writing with X amount of choreographers in one room?
Okay, so I will say, if I am teaming up on a project ever, one other person is enough. Because I have done projects with multiple heads in the room, whether it be at my studio, or my family studio rather, or with the crew, where there are a lot of people with a lot of different ideas, where it's like, a lot of the times when there's too many cooks in the kitchen, someone's got too much salt, or someone's got not enough salt, and telling that person this isn't exactly fitting the vibe, or being that person to be told that doesn't really fit, doesn't feel good, right?
Right. Now, since you had, the whole dance crew experience, is it kind of like how I was saying earlier that, like, most times out of 10 when you're in a band, there's usually just one sole songwriter and everybody else kind of goes off of like, hey, this is what I wrote. Let me teach you guys how this all goes down. Is it sometimes that same thing with a dance crew? There's usually one sole person that, sometimes does all the choreography, shows everybody else, and then, okay, cool, this is, or does everybody always chip in? There's always like a group, like, no matter if there's 5 or 6 people, all 6 people chip in and write, or is it usually like only maybe 1 or 2 people that, choreograph, and then they show everybody else and like, okay, this is what we're doing?
So there was this one Jersey event that a few of us attended, and it was a seminar class. It wasn't like a strictly dance class where it's like we go in, we learn content, we dance it, and that's it. It was like like the choreographer in the room was an industry class, which is like the choreographer is training the room to prepare to be part of the industry and to know how to work in the industry. So it wasn't a dance class. It was a seminar. Like, that was a definite seminar. And she looked at, I think it was a 3 or 4 of us, and she said, "Oh, you guys, y'all are a crew. Who's the leader?" So she basically, off the cuff, was just like, there needs to be a hierarchy or a chain of command, right? There needs to be,
of course,
there needs to be a head of the table. And unfortunately, like, the crew was formed with 3 of us. Granted, the 2 of them worked together before I was like, hey, let me in, like the Fiend. But after a year or two, one of those 2, the one that wound up raising his hand and saying, yeah, I'm the head, we wound up auditioning for America's Best Dance Crew in 2009 with a few other guys that, like, we hadn't regularly danced with. And one of the new guys tried to argue that one of the other new guys was the best guy on the crew. And the head of our crew was like, yeah, no, actually, sorry. Yeah, no, actually, it's Jim, because he's got the most diverse dance training of everybody here. Like, I felt that moment wholeheartedly. It felt good, but then once I started to try to contribute my ideas for the routines, and then, not that they were shut down, but it was like I would provide general choreography, and then they would try to manipulate it, like, as far as the formations, the staging, and the transition work would go, without allowing me the opportunity at that.
Right.
And I actually sounded off, and I was like, hey, this is my section. Why are you stepping on my toes here? Like, so that was like, a difference in opinion, right? They saw it one way, I saw it a different way.
Yeah.
They definitely allowed, and by they, I mean the older 2 that I co-founded the crew with. They definitely allowed input from the other dancers as far as like, hey, I have an idea here and here and here.
Mhm.
But it was less than half the time, to the point where, um, someone would suggest something and then they would just stand there and go like this and play devil's advocate, which, like, I understand. Like, you're trying to think of what's best overall,
Yeah.
but sometimes you just gotta run with someone else's idea and be like, all right, let's do that. Like,
Uh-huh.
initially, and try it, and then try it, and then look at it, and then after the fact say, yeah, this could be better. The approach was just like, they didn't even want to try. So there was a lot of dissension there, especially not acknowledging the input, but wanting us to do bigger, larger things.
Yeah.
The rest of us that didn't feel like we had like equal input and say, were very reluctant to do those larger things that required a lot more like financial investment, which was,
Mhm.
part of the blip in the radar, honestly.
Mhm.
Um, and those kind of things I'm sure are very, very similar in working with a band, as far as like someone is a leader, everybody wants to contribute. Someone starts to contribute. Someone tries to say, that's cool, but let's save that for something else, right? Like it's
Yeah.
it's it's not very far off, no.
No, not really. I mean, there are times where, I wasn't too much. I really didn't do too much writing in my first band. I did more writing in my second one, and even then, I wasn't like the sole songwriter, but I was able to, you know, participate more in the songwriting process, and I felt good doing that because I felt like I contributed to the songs we were playing, instead of not that I ever felt that I didn't contribute, but it's always good to have something that you were playing, like, okay, I contributed something, instead of just playing something that somebody else had written for me to play. Like, I still played it just the same, but there's nothing like, because I think I wrote my first song when I was in my second band for that type of music. And the guitar player that I was playing with at the time, really liked it, and he was able to take it and say, hey, this part's cool, but I think it would be cool if we expanded on this. And because he was very good at, you know, taking it, and because he was big on music theory, and he taught me a lot more about music theory and writing things in a musical theory type of sense. And he's like, if you switch these type of things, put this in here, and kind of put the little sauce on there, and it made it that much more, you know compact and everything. So me and him really meshed really well to be able to create a lot of things. And I think when he left, I think I talked about this plenty of times. Like, when he left that certain band, I felt that it was almost like my left arm came off, because he was really helping me, with the songwriting process. And when he left, I couldn't really, contribute a lot, because I didn't really know where to start from there. So, then I just ended up, long story short, leaving there, ended up starting writing songs of my own. And just from then, the things that he taught me about music theory, I ended up putting those implementations into my music as well. So yeah, I mean, there are a lot of similarities into music, where there can be a lot of like button heads of like, hey, yeah, you wrote this, but I think it should go this way. No, this is the way it should be, because I wrote it this way, and we're gonna play it this way. And it's just like whenever you get into any type of group, everybody's gonna have their moment of like, hey, this is the way it's supposed to be. This is the way it's going to go. I'm not budging. And so yeah, there's always that type of high strong man type of I mean, this is the way it's going to be, and if not, then we ain't playing it. So there's always that type of way of trying to write or something.
Yeah, it's tough on the creative end when you're working with people, right?
Yeah.
I narrow it down to 2 specifically because in my recent findings, I have found more success than not, especially the remote company that I told you that I do like the Sundays once a month thing, which I don't name drop my places on here. Because I don't have their approval. But currently I have 3 projects with 3 partners, and I love every single one of them for very, very different reasons. So I have a very wide range, and I get to work with students, some that I'm familiar with, some that I'm not, but they're local because I also teach very far from where I live. So it kind of brings me close to home. Same time, I would have to go back to one of my favorites. And this is going to kind of jump into the dialogue of like how I create. And this is a very different approach where I take the cast of dancers that I have and I position, or when I say me and my partner, before we started teaching and choreographing the piece, we sat down and we said, who do we want for which parts of the music across the entire track?
Gotcha.
And so we actually outlined and organized, we want these people here, 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 here.
Okay.
And it made choreographing a lot easier only because we could cater the difficulty of the choreography to who was in each section, because we had close to 20 dancers. So it was like each section had anywhere from 5 to 7 or 9, maybe 13 if we had a section that was more feminine. And we said, hey, let's let that be like the feminine spot. If I said, hey, let me take the 3 boys that were in the piece and make that like the more masculine spot. That was that was probably one of the few times that I ever laid out, like did an outline of like who goes where and when before I started divulging the creative process of like the movement on the choreography. And that was like 12 years ago, at least, maybe 13 or 14.
And I don't want to cut you off, but from what you're saying, it seems like you're talking about, so like your first thing is like structure of like laying out like the structure and outline. Now, is there a certain format that you always go towards, or does it just pertain to the song that you're using for that? Or is there always like a fixed structure of what you're doing, or does it kind of just change per song?
So that particular song, the particular cast of dancers that we had, my partner and I, who her and I both understood each other very well at the time, we were able to take the backside of an envelope and say, you know, the scribble thing.
Scribble.
Yeah. And that outline process is something that I've done less than 5 times ever. Like that, like I think about that one in particular because we followed the high school create an essay format that they preach to us, where it's like, take an idea, break it into 3 concrete thoughts, make descriptive, like that way of building an essay was how we built that routine, and it worked. It thrived. It did well.
Gotcha.
But I didn't always have a partner like that, and especially that particular partner had a very great talent of like seeing an idea in her head and being able to make it happen very quickly.
Cool.
So it was like we rebounded off of each other very well, especially we grew up dancing together very, very well. So outside of that, and the year before that, this helps too. Because the year before that, we didn't have that kind of preparation. We both worked together on a similar type project, and it won a very top prestigious large award, which is why we worked together again.
Right.
Testing 1 2 3.
Fee.
I think that's why we wound up being coupled together again the year following. Our third year, we went to not nationals, a pretty big competition in New Jersey, and won a very prestigious award that was like fairly new. And it was like, if you got this award, it was kind of like you're on the up and up, right? It was pretty cool because it was a jazz routine, which like we both grew up at a studio that was very strong in jazz, but the times were changing over where hip hop was going this way, contemporary was going this way, jazz was just kind of there, right? My partner was going in a contemporary route more so. I was going in the hip hop route more so. Her and I were both like, well, we can do the jazz thing. And we thrived in that. And that was also the first year that I had a small group. I did like a cover to Seven Nation Army, and we went to a competition that we hadn't attended before, and I won a choreography award for my first jazz group routine in the advanced level. And I was like, that was one of those validation moments where I was like, okay, so I'm not just good at doing the hip hop thing. Like I can understand and do other things. Like that was really, really cool. That was our year 3. Year 1, I had more of my stock in like the energy of the younger kids in the hip hop because they were just like so excited to be there. It was a very new thing for them. We did Stronger by Kanye West before, he was the Kanye West that he is today. He was pretty all right at the time, kind of. And it seemed very fitting for 2008. Like the kids were pretty onto it. 09 was like, because I marked it down year by year. I feel like that was kind of like, hey, yeah, we just did that, and now we're still doing it again, kind of year. Actually, Kim had a really awesome tap group that year to The Devil Went Down to Georgia, which was pretty awesome. I think about that a lot. Our lyrical teacher had a very dominant lyrical routine that really just scored strong. I had a hip hop solo my third year that did well, the Seven Nation Army. And the one routine, and then the fourth year is the year where I talked about the layout, where we actually, because we did the third year, we won pretty good. We wound up working together again fourth year, and we were like, all right, we should plan this out. We should dissect this based on the cast and say, who do we want and where? And it worked out pretty well. That actually wound up being like the studio's rise from like for hip hop, because one of my best hip hop routines ever came to that year. Year 5, I had like a solo that with a boy that was like lyrical, that was very emotionally driven. I also had a hip hop group with older girls, no boys, because like boys at the time was like, if you had a boy in a hip hop routine, it was just kind of like, oh, they're it. But if you had a hip hop routine with all girls and they could dominate, that showed a lot of strength.
Yeah,
as well. And they won one of the dance offs that year. I could go through everything. Beyond that, would take some time, but I will say,
Mhm.
um, as time went on, I stopped preparing ahead of time a little bit more and started trusting myself in the space more so. Um,
Gotcha.
I would,
That's interesting.
yeah, I would, well, yeah. And I think it was because I grew an irritation towards investing so much time in preparing ahead of time and then going in and teaching it and then walking out of the rehearsal being like, I hated that, versus the other times where I'd walk in and come up with it on the spot and being like, that was probably better than if I had prepared previously. So I
Because you're not
gravitated.
thinking about it. You're just kind of going right off and like whatever first comes off, like first thought, bam.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep. So as far as how I approach choreographing a routine, I'll just go with I can build off of that other routine. But that was collaborated. I have another routine specifically where I got to the last minute of the routine and I sat there and I listened to the music for a half hour and I could see what, like, how I wanted the routine to move with the bodies in my head, not necessarily where I wanted people to specifically stand, but how I wanted the formation to move and travel and interweave each other and say, hey, I want this moment to be a solo or duo spot, and then collect, be a team, go, 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 and then do the same thing, da 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 da, boom, 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 and strong. Yeah, just running down the list. Actually, after that specific routine was when our like 9 to 13-year-olds started getting a little bit stronger than our older like high school students. So that turn was interesting.
I think that probably correct me if I'm wrong, that might have to be, other than choreographing the dance portion of it, but like seeing where everybody, where you want everybody to be. I would feel that has to be one of the most more technical things about the piece of like, okay, it's good if you're seeing it all playing out, because there's things, that I like, okay, I see, like writing a riff here, like I'll have melodies that pop into my head, and sometimes I'll have to record them because if I don't, I'll forget them. Like I'll hear a melody pop into my head, I'll hear a chorus, I'll hear a verse, or I'll hear some type of guitar piece in my head. But like for in your sake, like you're seeing movements of like, okay, this group moving into this spot, that person moving into this taking, like you said, like oh, this might be like a good female spot, so let's rush these people in here. So it's a lot of different movements and like things going off. So like I said, and this is why I wanted to kind of talk about it, because like, I see similarities into how we think and everything, but we're like, they're similar, but they're different. And I think that's cool on the fact that like how dance and music can, really be on the same wavelengths, but we're seeing things differently, but we're not, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I could take an example from something that I am using, not just at my one studio, but for a few that I've taught at, and they all love. And it's not, and this is the thing, as far as being a dance teacher, sometimes you don't receive the appreciation from your students of like, I really enjoyed that. That is like, as far as being an instructor, when you like getting the thank you at the end of a lesson is almost kind of like your parents taught you good manners. And I appreciate it. That's cool. But when like I had a rehearsal yesterday on a project where and this is to no disrespect my partner. But like we take turns on, hey, this month you take this month I take this. So I took January and she took February, which was yesterday. And after she was done with her one section, there was a little boy in the room that was like, can we do both sections, please? And I could just see the energy that the kids brought to what I taught in January, and how excited that they were, and that made me feel so happy. Especially, I'm knocked is not the word, but let's just say some dancers feel away because I challenge beyond the limit, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when I have younger students excited to practice my section, that's not something that I'm used to, honestly. And
Mhm.
and that's kind of a complex on my end, because I feel like if I'm not teaching challenging content, I feel like I'm doing a lazy job. And
Right.
I know I've said that before on here, maybe a year ago. Um,
Yeah, I mean, you always want to have the people who are, doing the piece liking what you're putting out there too. And I mean, you want to give them something to challenge themselves. Like that's like the teacher in it. Like you don't want them to have an easy way about it. I mean, it depends on the age, I think too. But like when you have students that you can challenge, if you give them that challenge and then they're always kind of relaying the fact that okay, that they can step up to the challenge and do the things that you're teaching, you know again, that's a validation moment as well. The fact that they're receiving what you're doing, and I can assume that's an awesome feeling, like you said, that that the things that you're seeing in your head, you're challenging the students that you're giving them this piece for, and when they're just like getting it, and that must be a cool feeling.
yeah, I mean, it's a lot of fun when we have the opportunity to run across a song, like let's say Neon by John Mayer, right? Because it starts out with the dum bum bum dum bum bum dum bum
Yeah,
bum dum bum bum dum bum bum. Like for me,
very complex song, but yeah.
very complex, but I would generally like I would never like choreograph something that's like dum bum bum dum bum bum dum bum bum where it's like the movement is so fluent compared to the music is very staccato, like dum bum bum. I would be like dum bum bum
Right.
bum, because
Gotcha.
his like the way his lyrics flow when he goes when sky blue gets dark enough to see the colors of the city lights,
Uh-huh.
like that's when I would say when sky blue gets dark enough. Like I would pick those melt moments right then and there, because you have
Yeah.
the contrast of the intricacies of like the guitar licks behind it. It's like pick and choose what makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Because
See, this is where I wanted to get, like, where are you thinking, like, this is where I'm like getting it, like what, like when you're seeing that, like what do you think in your head, like of how to interpret that, how do you turn that into dance, and you're just explaining that right now, so go on, please.
absolutely, we're only an hour and a half in. It's okay.
Only an hour and a half in when we got to it. But no,
Well,
like it was cool, like how you said the fact that like you're seeing like we're taking this song, but like Neon, how it's very integrated with the guitar lick, but then when you hear the lyrics, they're a different type of beat to what the thing. So then how you're saying you're interpreting that is like cool. Like you'll, instead of having like every beat you're doing a movement, when the lyrics come in, that's when you're changing up to like the halftime movements.
well, it's when the longevity in letting your arms breathe, letting your body breathe, because
Yeah.
if his vocals offer that longevity, it doesn't make total sense to be like, let's chop up the movement and make it staccato here, and let's let the movement breathe when the instrumentation is just like very like specific, right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of how my mind works. Now, like I said, it's not right or wrong, because some people will say, hey, do the opposite thing and then watch what happens. Try it.
Yeah.
So for me, the alternative that I would maybe consider is maybe do like a take the now we're going on the I mean every version of Neon is acoustic, right? I just know that there's a few separate
Yeah,
versions.
there's only an acoustic version. He's never done a full band version of Neon, from what I know of.
So, okay, let's do this. This is fine. And it's easy and you'll make sense of it cuz it's very like an elongated strum, boom, and then it goes the boom boom and then the same thing, boom, the boom boom and then boom,
Mhm.
go go and then da da dum da da dum and then the same thing, right? So,
Uh-huh.
it's not like boom 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 da, 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 da. It doesn't have to be choppy the whole time. But
Yeah.
if you can make that first strum elongated, like boom, and then gum, and then again, ooh, and then ooh.
Like exaggerating certain beats of those certain things. So,
Well,
and then I guess that's like the dynamic of it. I guess like you're insinuating like yeah,
it
you're
works.
insinuating certain dynamics of like certain beats of those to like get that like full
Well,
phrase that out.
It's the longevity of how long the strum lasts is
Yeah.
how we try to match how long the movement lasts. Because, like I said, our bodies visually are supposed to be the extra instrument to the music,
Yes.
right? Like that's our goal. So if the strum is going boom and it's lasting that long, you're not going to go boom and then
Right.
be frozen. You're going to want it to breathe boom and then boom, boom, da 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 da, ooh, and then boom, sky blue gets dark enough, and then you can breathe through the lyrics after that, and then that whole dynamic can change. And everything that I've preached for a long time, I think I've said it on here. I think, and if I haven't, first time. What do you do on a roller coaster? Woo, woo, woo. You're excited. What do you do on a train? You fall asleep. Because it's the same thing all the time.
Yeah.
So it's important. Like, I always preach dynamics to my students because it's like, hey, if you come in, I had a mentor of mine tell me like 15 years ago, hey, if you are that for 2 minutes, people are going to get bored in 30 seconds and walk away because attention span, which we've talked about, if you're, ooh, look what I can do.
Yeah.
And you're just moving around like this for 2 minutes, 30 seconds, people are gone. You have to be able to do both interchangeably, which when I watch you play, I see where you thrive. It's in the songs that you've played for a while and you know, hey, I need to like attack this section a little bit more. I need to like be really cool on this section a little bit more. And those songs, I'm like, yeah, he really gets it here. And as you continue to do these gigs, you're going to find those dynamics and it's going to make you feeling like you're interchanging in your performance.
Yeah. And since we're on the topic of John Mayer, you were just talking about dynamics of everything and kind of like, the yo-yo effect and then having like a train being constant. John Mayer was talking to the Berkeley Kids of Music, and he was talking about the process of a guitar solo. Excuse me. The fact that, you're trying to take people on a journey, like with a guitar solo. If you go and, do your best move at the first, like, you jump at the beginning of the neck, like, you're like, all right, you just put out your best stuff. Where do you go from there? You can't go anywhere else but down. So, but if you gradually work your way up to that solo, like, moment, then you're bringing them on that journey. But if you like hit your best stuff right away, you've already hit that plateau of awesomeness. So it's like you're trying to start out gradual and, you know, bring the people into that journey and then shoot up to the star. So like how it kind of connects your mentality of saying like, you can't be exerting all these, you know, crazy fast movements for 2-3 minutes, because like you're just giving all your best stuff, and then like you said, people are eventually going to be like, all right, this is boring, get out of here. And the same thing with like you know, either like
Netflix shows, anything you stream, any movie you watch, the things we were talking about earlier. If you get your fun stuff out of the way early and you have nothing to compare to after, you're dead in the water early on. It's the same thing. That's what entertainment is. It's about drawing out until, hey, this is cool. This is interesting. This is interesting. This is interesting. This is interesting. So when dancers have to audition for a professional job, we're never supposed to go in with our best stuff in the first round, because it's like, okay, you've made it to the second round. Now what do you have to offer? And you're like, oh no, I exhausted my best stuff early on. Yeah. No, you're supposed to have levels prepared to be like, oh, this is round 1, round 2, round 3. And I've seen people do an audition where it's like, okay, you only have this one round, but it's the intro. Like, we learn choreography, and you intro with freestyle, you do the choreography, and then you outro with freestyle. And the intro is supposed to be like teaser. Now I can do the choreography, and then your outro is supposed to be like your best stuff. And then it's like, book me, pay me. Like that's kind of like the method. You can't go in gun swinging up front, because it's like, okay, show me what else you got. And it's like, I just exhausted all my ammo. And it's like,
right,
you're dead. Someone else. See you. Like that's very realistic. 100%. I didn't mean to cut you off, but like I was like,
no.
Let's pull this in. Perfect.
And that's how I had been, you know, interpreting a lot of my guitar work now, of like, you know, not trying to, you know, blow the gasket right away, but kind of gradually work my way up to that like wow type of moment where everybody's like, oh my god, he hit that note. But even with some of the guitar solos that I've written recently that I haven't released yet, you know, there's this one solo that I keep going back to, and I think it's one of my better solos that I've written, that it kind of gives that, you know, dynamic of like, you know, kind of working way up, and it's not, you know, and there's this thing of like saying like, you know, learning when to play and when not to play, of like, you know, giving, I guess almost like how you said, like giving yourself room to breathe. Like you don't have to constantly always be playing. That, you know, learn when not to play, and then learn when to come back in. That's something that I've been really trying to teach myself too. Like, I don't always have to be, you know, putting notes in there. Give yourself a second to breathe before going into that transition, you know?
Okay. So the last time that you have read a book is when? Right. Readers. Wow. My friends that read, that are observing, comment below the last book that you read and tell us why it took you on a compelling journey. And I bet you it's because there are moments in the book that you felt like, okay, this is a low. As I'm watching The Walking Dead now, which Anthony knows I have not finished yet, I'm like, okay, this is a filler episode. It's because they want to draw us down before the excitement spikes again. And that's everything entertainment, period. It's a roller coaster. That's it. It. Why would they say, "Oh, Rick, you're dead" on the first episode? Oh no, just kidding.
Spoiler. Like,
oh no.
I would definitely say that The Walking Dead, like especially the times that you're at. I mean, and I think you've already been kind of told by some of us that like the episodes you're going to be getting now are kind of going to start like the whole season's going to kind of go like this and then shoot back up. So and they've kind of all been like that, but like mostly now like that's what you're going to get a big bump and then slowly die down in the middle of the season, then like towards that ending, then you're going to shoot back up until that finale. So yeah.
Okay, so to be fair, when you get to the end of season 7 and Negan says, "We're at war," guess what? War is not fast. It's very long and drawn out. I know this because I am growing up in a country where there is no such thing as fast war. We went to the Vietnam War for no effing reason for 10 years and nothing came of it. Same with the Afghanistan War.
Weapons of mass destruction, people. Yeah, okay.
No,
they got weapons, people.
But seriously, I like watching. I've made it through the first 3 episodes of season 8, and I'm like, this isn't gonna happen fast. It's all drawn out because that's what war is. It does not end quickly. So I guess that's where I appreciate knowing I'm watching a show that has a finite ending because I don't have to wait week to week to week, because there have been countless episodes where I turn to Shine and I'm like, imagine watching this in real time and being like, oh my God, we have to wait till next week. And that's why I'm like, I don't want to do this at all. Like,
yeah, that's why I just went off, because it just started getting, just I lost interest like really, really quick, and I'm like, all right, this is just. I've told you off air many a times already how I feel, but I think a lot of people, even before then, were losing interest. But I tried to keep like holding on to it, thinking that I'm like, all right, let maybe try to get through this, drift of the series. But I just lost interest, and I'm like, all right, I can care less if I miss an episode. And like you said, you miss an episode, then you miss 2, then you miss 3, and they're like, I'm already, out the bag on this, so I'm done.
Right.
But then I started noticing they were obviously getting into their last season. I'm like, I think even before then, I was flipping on a couple of the episodes. I'm like, all right, where are they at now? What are they doing? And then I'm like, all right, now I remember why I'm not watching it. Then I was listening and watching like the last season. I'm like, all right, I mean, whatever. And then I watched the final episode, and I'm like, I mean, I think it was done well, but I think they went a couple seasons over what they could have.
They could have ended it sooner, because the other.
I don't think that's too much of a spoiler for you, because I think you might feel the same way at the end. But yeah, I think they definitely elongated the series when they could have ended it maybe 2 seasons before they did.
Well, we're getting at the point now where when certain people have dialogue that we're like, this is just dialogue to be dialogue, like we're fast forwarding. Just honestly, King Ezekiel, he's just talking these fancy words, and I'm just like, I know what you're saying. And then just fast forward.
I think he starts becoming more important later on, but yeah, like his introduction, I was like, yeah, this dude is like not of interest to me.
Well, the best was when he had them in the woods, and he's like, look, we're leading with a smile. We're doing so good. And then they lead it into one outpost, and then all of his people get shot up. And I was just like, that's what you get for being right.
You're an idiot. Oh, but man, yeah, this was a cool episode. I really wanted to pick your brain about the whole music thing, and I think I hit. Even though like an hour and a half into it, I hit what I wanted to hear from you. The fact that like I think we do kind of feel and hear the same things, but we're we're running parallel, but we're both seeing the same thing. And I think that's cool to kind of see that, like, my theory of like music and dance, it's kind of like what I feel like we both see things the same way, but we just interpret them differently.
I think what's important is that you and I collaborate on a concept where we have an idea on a thing, and you produce the music and I produce the movement. And because the movement is my instrument, and we can tweak, because I can hear what you produce and I can say,
Yes.
oh, let's draw that out longer, or let's splice that immediately. And then you and I can convey to the audience a little bit more of like how you and I are more jointly related.
Yeah.
Brothers from other mothers. But yeah, I think that's a very amazing idea. So maybe let's do that.
Yeah.
I know we've talked about like, hey, you produce a song, let me dance to it. But I'd actually rather sit with you and say, all right, let's talk about what we're feeling right now, and then just dive into it together. And then
that would be cool, like just something, or like it can't be something like I'm independently doing, you're independently doing, like both of us getting in a room.
I don't want either one of us having to feed off the other. Let's just both like drive into the project together. That would be
like just
amazing.
Being in a room, coming in with no, outside, not interference, but like nothing like coming to the table with, just both going into a room, and this is what we come up with. That would be cool.
Yeah. Dude, I'm going to let you set the deadline for it, because we have some every 10 episodes, and I know we have talked about not liking to have deadlines, which I love not having them. And at the same time, you said earlier about stop waiting to be perfect to post, like just continuously post. And I have lived in the mindset of like, I don't want to post my work for years, because I like to keep to myself. I like to stay a little bit refrained, but I'm also getting to the point where I'm like, if I am staying so conservative about my ideas and so many people are respecting it, what might happen if more people saw it? And not like, hey, I'll make more money or I'll get more appreciation. No, there's gonna come people that are like, that's trash, that's garbage. And you know, putting yourself out there, you have to acknowledge that like haters are going to be present, right?
Yeah. It happens with all aspects of entertainment. I mean, you put yourself out there, you're going to get the trolls, you're going to get the people that say, oh, this sucks. But then you get the people like say this sucks, but then they've never picked up an instrument or they've never danced in their life. So those are the I've learned over the last couple, like especially this year, the fact that, you got to take those people with a grain of salt, and, you take the good compliments, the way you want, but try not to dwell on the bad ones, because, there's always bad people trying to bring good people down. And I'm not just saying this because you're my best friend, but you're an awesome dancer, and what that guy had told you before, that there's something in you, that you got something in you and keep going. I 1,000% have told you that, millions of times, that, you got something. And I know, just like me with music, I'll never stop writing nor doing some type of music. I know you'll never stop dancing nor teaching in some type of aspect. So, we're both going to continue to just lift each other up on those type of aspects, man.
Absolutely. And in the last Not even 60 seconds. I have an idea that I want to talk to you about off air. So let's wrap this up. Anthony, I love you, brother. This has been One Set. You can follow us Facebook, Instagram at One Set Pod, Gmail. If you want to write in any submissions, we do have this poll ongoing for our February romantic watch along. There's a couple special ones in there. My personal favorite, I love you, man. Also, 10 things I hate about you. But a couple other ones in there. Specifically, Anthony's favorite. I think it was Brokeback Mountain. And which was the second one?
Dude, don't even get me started.
Catch us on Spotify, Apple Music, Stitcher, wherever you listen to your podcasts out at. This has been One Set. My name is Jim Green. Anthony Irvin, anything you want to say, brother?
Yeah, we do have a new hub. We changed from Linktree to Hobie.OneSetPod. It's in the little little thing here or in the link description below. That is our new little hub. You'll be able to get our latest episode. Our merch is up on there. You can subscribe to our email list for updates and everything. It has a lot of our links on there, so feel free to check that link out. Like Jim said, we have merch available now. We'll probably be putting out some new designs and everything come the springtime. And if there's any type of merch items you guys would want us to see in the new lineup, let us know, because it'll only help us to get us to know what you guys want us to put out for you guys. So feel free to check out the merch we have, support the pod, and thank you guys for all the love and support. I mean, this has been awesome week after week, and we're continuing to get that much more people tuning in every week. So we thank you for all the love and support, guys.
P.S. Eagles 37, Chiefs 27. This has been One Set.
One Set. Go Birds.
Go Birds.